welcome back to the New Player Career Build Series. This is episode number 4. And so in this episode, we're going to start talking about running out of fuel. And so I've been kind of waiting to try to see what people need some more information on. And so I continually see this almost on a daily basis, people posting, I ran out of fuel in my base. What do I do next? So this is an important thing to know when you're a new player. The way the game used to work was you essentially had infinite fuel that would magically appear in your base, and you would buy it from the base. I think this was a good move in the long term. I understand people not liking this. You can always turn on infinite fuel if you need infinite fuel, but this it was, I think, a really good change by the devs. It kind of forces people into making some engineering choices, and they have to do it kind of early in a career game. You should be making your vehicles pretty fuel efficient. A lot of people do not care about that. They care about max speed, and so they burn a ton of fuel, and they end up paying for it. And so what you want to do here is you tend to want to let your game run for about 5 minutes. It only takes about 5 minutes for the fuel to populate in the world. And what I mean by that is if you look around the map, you'll see these little fuel icons. So you have these icons here. You have two colors. You have these black ones and you have these green ones. So the black ones here, these are your buys. This is where you can buy fuel from. It says jet fuel gantry buy for $4, diesel buy for $2, oil sell for $1. So the green ones, you are not going to be able to buy fuel at the green ones. You can only sell there. That's how you can make some money, by selling these things. The black ones you can buy. Now, we started down here at the North Meyer outpost here. And so there aren't too many refueling options for us here. We need to be able to get some fuel in our base. So if we go ahead and we look at our pumps here, you'll notice the diesel pump has 5,000 liters in it. All right. Now, if you have a fuel efficient boat to start with, that should last you quite a while. But a lot of people do not have fuel efficient boats. So I would highly recommend, one, as a new player, you need to start working on gearing properly and getting your craft to be fuel efficient. The other thing you need to do is you need to start thinking about moving some fuel. So what we can do is we can fill up tanks and we can bring that fuel back and we can put it in our base. When we despawn the vehicle, it puts it in our base. We can also pump it in. So you'll notice it has pump out. That's pump out to your vehicle. This is pump in. That will be pumping in from your vehicle into the dock. And if we look out on the map here, and you hover over this house icon, you can see it here. We have 4,882 liters of diesel in the base. Now, some is probably not showing correctly because this is a little bit different. If we go ahead and look over there, we have the same pumps. It has the same quantity because this is all within one base. For example, at FJ Warner, we have multiple diesel pumps. We have some here, here, and here, and they all share the same amount. Now, the way the game does this is each of these bases is going to start with around 5,000 liters of diesel. So you can go around and steal some diesel for free. So for example, this here is Urine Wind power plant. As you can see, if it has this little house with a $sign, that is a base. Now, of course, we're not going to be able to buy this base, but we can still go over there and get the fuel for free. So what we can do is we can take our boat from here and we can go over to Urine Wind and we can take the 5,000 liters that's sitting at that base and we can bring it back. And if we despawn our vehicle in here or pump it out, we now have that fuel. All right. If we look around the map here, you'll notice we have some green here. That's all sales. That's for the aluminum and the metals there. So that's not going to do us any good. But if we look here, we can take fuel from here. If we go over here to FJ Warner, we could take the 5,000 out of here. That's going to give us a grand total of like 10,000 liters. That's going to get us going for a while. But if we go up here to the refinery island, we can buy diesel for $2. We can buy as much as we want. So we have 26,000 here. We could buy up to 13,000 liters of diesel. We could bring it back and we could stick it in our base. So this is something a lot of players I'm noticing are struggling with early. They're not thinking about fuel, and part of it is they don't know how the fuel system works. And so what you have to do is you have to go to places like here and buy fuel. The other one you can do is you can start mining. So we have an oil deposit right here, and we could build an oil rig. Now, we're probably not going to have enough money. I think my oil rig costs like $34,000 to launch. But once you start to if you want to drill for oil, you can make your own fuel. As you can see, that's nice and convenient, but that's a little bit more advanced. So what you're going to want to do early game is you're going to want to go from base to base, and you're going to want to take fuel. So if we look here, Ender Field is a base. That probably has about 5,000 liters of diesel in the base. We could take that. All right. There are some other places here. Try to find them all here. So Chicken Soar gas station. Let's go ahead and we will go in the custom menu here, and I'll show you all the places we can steal fuel. So we'll allow teleport no clip here, and I will go over to Chicken Soar gas station. And this is going to have some pumps, and we'll be able to take that fuel. So of course I landed on the roof. And so let's go ahead. I believe they're behind the gas station here. They're right here. As you can see, this has 5,176 liters in here. We can take that. That's free. Once this runs out, we no longer have that free fuel. So we have fuel here. We could go via land. We could go to Ender. We can also get some fuel from there. But ultimately, we're going to want to go all the way across. Now, your map is going to be different. These islands will move based on your seed. So as you can see, it's a little bit of a hike for us. So before we actually make that journey, we're going to want to make a GPS system or a bearing system, which essentially uses GPS to get there. So I will be going into that, how to do more complicated navigation. But each of these bases is going to have fuel. For example, Spy Cakes will have 5,000 liters. This will have 5,000 liters. If we look up here, we can sell diesel there. And if we look at the mainland, so a lot of people are going to start, this is where generally people start, is that this Coast Guard beginner outpost. How do you get fuel if you start here? Very simple. You come down here to the Sawyer North, and you can take the 5,000 free liters that are there. How do I get it more than that? Well, it's actually pretty easy. This is an easy start spot. You come down here, you come in here, and right here, this is a diesel buy. It's right off of the water. You can park your boat here, and you can go get the diesel there. All right, you can buy diesel there. Any of these, again, you can, this base will have some spawn there. So that's an important thing to understand early game, is that you're going to need to go get your fuel. I see this almost on a daily basis, like I was saying. People are consistently saying, my base ran out of fuel, what do I do next? Part of this is, they did say in the update when they changed it that they made this change, but, nobody expects everybody to go back and read every patch note ever came out for the game, and that's why we make tutorials like this. So let's go ahead and decide, how are we going to get more fuel? Well, one, let's start simply. Let's go and we will go from here around, and we'll get the diesel from Urine Wind Power Plant. This will give us 5,000 liters. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our boat. So here is our boat, and let's look at the capacity. So right now what we can do is let's take a dial, and I'll go into panels and dials and setting up some dials. But let's look at some dials here as well. So this one here is our speed. So I put in speed meters per second. I did what I call indexing the gauge. Indexing the gauge is you put in a minimum value and you're making a maximum value. That means at this minimum value, your needle is going to be all the way to the left. At the maximum value, it's going to be all the way to the right. Over here, we're going to make another one. So we're going to go ahead, and first thing we'll do is we'll hook up electricity. So these are powered. Then we'll go to data, and we'll drag this down. And with these prefab tanks, we have a tank content. We can click onto that. And let's go ahead and spawn it. Somebody was also asking, how do you disconnect these leads, these logic nodes? They were actually just deleting things to get rid of them. All you have to do is drag back, and it gets rid of it. We can connect it. We can disconnect it like this. Same thing. You just click and redo the connection, and it will disconnect it. So that's how you do that. So let's go ahead and spawn it, and let's look at how much fuel we have in the boat. So we have 694 liters in that tank. As you can see, it subtracts it from there. So let's go ahead and let's put in just 700. So we'll index our gauge. And I will be going into panels and everything else, but this is our fuel. All right, so how are we going to set this up? I want to go get some fuel. There's no point in me bringing a full tank of fuel. I'm not going to be able to transport that much fuel. So let's go ahead and grab this. And let's go down so we're only running on 10% of our fuel. Let's do more than that. Let's do 25% of our fuel. So we're going to take a quarter tank. The other 3/4 of the tank is going to be empty, and we're going to fill that up, and we're going to ferry fuel over. Now, if we want to add even more, we could add another tank, but let's start like this. This is how we're going to get more fuel. So let's go ahead and spawn it. So as we go in there, and let's also set it up, we need a place to pump the fuel as well. So currently, we have no way to refill this except spawning it at the base. Let's change that. So again, I don't really care how this boat looks. This is just to learn the mechanics of it. So we're going to go ahead and we'll drag that up like so. So I'll put just, as you can see, these are now double-sided. They used to not be double-sided. They are now. So we can go either side. And we'll cut a hole in there. And we'll go from the top here. We'll put a pipe. And then we want to go hose for hose anchor. And this is how we fill and empty our boat, with this hose anchor. All right, so let's go ahead and spawn this now. And we're going to head over to Urine Wind, and we're going to get some fuel. All right, so we're starting with 165 liters of fuel. So the other thing I want to do here is, and we're going about 20 knots. That's meters per second. So it's 1.94 times 9. So we're going just under 20 knots. All right. And so we've already burned about 4 liters. So we're going to get some notion of how fuel efficient our boat is on the trip over there. So I'm going to go ahead and time-lapse you guys out, and you'll be able to see how long it takes us to go over there to Urine Wind and get some fuel. Alright, so here we are arriving at Urine Wind. We have to be careful we can't go too close to the nuclear power plant because it will fry us. So if we look 12 o'clock right there, we see there are multiple refueling sections here. So we'll grab binoculars, and as you can see, those are our pumps right there. So I'm going to park right in front of the pumps. Going to probably have to go for a little swim-around here. As you can see, there is a staircase there, so it's okay if we have to swim. We'll go do that. There are hoses with the pumps, so I didn't say that before, but there'll be 2 hoses there on each pump, so we didn't need to bring our own hose with us. So we'll park this up, we'll fill it up, and then we'll have fuel. One thing I'm going to check here is how much fuel we burned. We'll get into gearing these engines up and seeing how efficient we can get them. Gearing's a little bit more of a complicated topic. I have some tutorials on gearing, but that is one of the main ways you will reduce your fuel burn is essentially, simply talking, the fuel burn is to do with the RPS of the engine. If you can get that RPS down, you're going to be burning less fuel. A lot of people will be not geared properly, be revving their engines way up, and they'll be burning an insane amount of fuel. So let's go ahead and we're going to jump off. There's really no way for us to jump up there. I don't see a ladder. And so we'll go ahead and we'll swim to the staircase, and we'll jump down with the hose. So this is something I recommend you do early in your career game. That's why I'm doing it here on episode 4 of the New Player Career Build Series is get some fuel, put it in your base, and this is going to help you out. Looking at it quickly, we start out with 165 liters. We're down to 74, I believe is where it was. So we burn 91 liters to get over here. All right, so that is something to keep in mind. Now, if we want to get even more fuel, what we can do is build a tanker. And so you can do that by adding tanks. We could put them on the deck of our boat. However you like to do that to be able to add more capacity so that you can transfer fuel. I have, for example, I do tanker barges that hold, many tens of thousands of liters of diesel, and you can go get that. One of the great things with the industrial frontier is the ability to be able to drill your own oil now, but you can still do this without. So we can only hold 1 2-slot item, so I need to drop the torch. Grab this hose. We want to pump out, and we want to go on the this one here. As you can see, a free 5,155 liters of diesel right there. So just going to try to get lined up and jump down, and we'll plug into the hose anchor there, and as you notice, it's filling us up very quickly here. And so this is going to be how you're going to have to transfer fuel early game. As you can see, that was a very short trip. If we look here, we only went from here around and in. Very simple, easy to navigate. I could see this shore the entire time. And we used 91 liters to get over here. So we're going to expect 91 liters back. So, it was 165. So we pretty much, it's going to take us 182 round trip. So we can move 600 liters of fuel. And especially with these early missions, we're not going to burn that much. So what I'm going to do here is grab the hose anchor. Now, it's a little bit annoying that we have to kind of, go swim all the way over there. Another reason why I recommend you turn on the custom menu is we could turn on no clip right there. And I will often just no clip up. It's up to you guys how you want to do this. The biggest thing is putting that custom menu on allows you to cut down frustration. And so for me, would that be frustrating having to swim back and forth there 8 times? Yes. And so what I prefer to do is I'll just no clip up here. Why? Because we have opposable thumbs. We could grab on a ledge and pull ourselves up. Likely there would be actual staircases. This is the other thing that's kind of important early game when you're hurting for money. If you see these crates, these are loot crates. These are all over the place. You find them floating in the water. You find them on islands. You find them in places like this. If you come over to one of these loot crates and you press your E key, you collect it. We just got $9,000 in cash for coming on this little adventure. So not only did we move some fuel that we needed desperately in our base, not desperately yet, but that we will need desperately in our base, we just made $9 grand just for coming over here. So that's an important step. Now, other thing I recommend, when you're up against a dock like this, you can go in here and you can remove vehicle damage. Why do I do this? As you can see, the the hose pulled us closer, and we're up against a collision. As you can see, this wall is a collision right here. And so what the problem with this is, as you can see, we're going to be moving up and down with the waves. We're going to be hitting this wall. And what sometimes happens is your ship or your car or whatever is up against an object will randomly explode and you'll get a bunch of damage. That is devastating early game. Another reason why I like having this custom menu on. When I go up and I dock, in real life, you see these tires? These tires are known as fenders. The whole point of a fender is you have something soft and squishy that the boat can bump up against so that you do not damage your boat. And so these really don't work in game. They should. We should also have portable fenders you throw over and protect your boat. That's how it works in real life. We don't have that. So what I'll often do is when I come up against the dock, I'll shut off damage so that, for example, I can drive out. And this will not damage my boat because especially early game, that's going to be devastating for us if we have a big explosion. And then when I come out, I can go ahead and put damage back on. And so as you can see, we now have grabbed a good bit of fuel. We're up to 703 liters of fuel in our tanks. And as you can see, the number's not moving. The number's not moving because we also put fuel in the pipes. So sometimes you'll notice we have a certain capacity, and if we spawn the vehicle, it will be lower than that. Some people wonder, where did that fuel go? It went in the pipes. So it has to fill the pipes as well. So it fills your tank when you spawn it, and then that fuel will leak into the pipes. And so essentially you're subtracting the pipe distance into that while we filled the pipes up. So as you can see, it will take some time before we ever burn that fuel. There it goes there, because we had to burn off what was in the pipes before the tank volume will start to go down and read it. So this is an important thing to do early game. Is you don't have to necessarily transport your fuel so early, but you have to start thinking about it. You know, as you can see, we used 91 liters to go from here to here. Now we could get the efficiency up, but that's actually a pretty good distance for 91 liters. That's not too bad. All right, so that is about double that, $180 in fuel there. All right, and so we just went and stole some free fuel. And you need to start thinking about this early. I see very often new players, I ran out of fuel, what do I do? I ran out of fuel, what do I do? And so you need to start thinking about it. Now, as you know, we're on episode 4. We did some rescues, we did some building, and we're just now starting to think about fuel. This holds 700 liters, our current boat. That beginner base holds 5,176 liters of diesel. So we're going to be able to fill our boat up quite a few times. Let's do a quick calc here. We'll do, so we're going to be able to fill our boat up about 7 full tanks before we run out. All right. And so you need to keep that in mind, that eventually you're going to have to go take a trip to go get some fuel. Now, you don't necessarily have to go make a special trip. For example, if you get a rescue that's somewhere close, you can go and you can stop in there and grab some fuel. A good practice is every time you get close to a place where you can buy some fuel, buy some fuel. Or if you can take some fuel from a base, take some fuel. By going and stopping and taking that fuel, you're going to be ferrying it back to your base, and every time you despawn your vehicle, it's going to be putting that fuel back in your base. Then as you get a little bit more advanced in the game, you can start doing things like building tankers, and you're going to be able to purposefully go and get some tankered fuel. As you can see, there's the base there. So from this spot, we can see both bases. As you can see, they're not that far from one another. But that's one of the things I kind of like about the game, is that you have to start thinking about these things, the logistics of keeping your game running. Where am I going to get fuel? How am I going to get that fuel? For example, we could add a second tank in here. We could make the capacity 1,400 liters, and we could have gone there, burned 91, and we could have ferried even more fuel back. That's all a tanker is. So, later if we need to, we can turn this boat into a tanker by adding more fuel capacity. But right now, this has plenty of capacity in it, and we can move our fuel. So I'll go ahead and I'll get back with you guys when we get over to the base, and I'll show you how it just we can despawn and it puts it all in our tanks. Alright, so here we are pulling back on our base, and we got our next mission for our next episode. As you can see here, this is a boat requires service, and if you get a line like this, it's telling you that it needs to be towed. So we'd need to tow this boat from here over to Urine Wind. And so a lot of people are confused early on if they have to tow the boat or not. If it does not have this line, you do not have to transport the boat. It will tell you, as you can see, transport the boat to Urine Wind. It will tell you right where it needs to go. So let's go ahead and we will despawn this vehicle and we'll put the fuel in the dock. So there's 2 ways to get this fuel into our base. One, we could go ahead and fall in the water here first. Let's go ahead, go on up. We could make sure you have the right pump. So we're pumping diesel. We want to grab the hose here. So again, we can't carry more than 1 2-slaughter. And right here we want to pump in. We want to do the associated hose anchor. And we can start to pump in this way. And as you'll notice, it will start to decrease the number. Or the quicker way we can do it here is we would go in, and all we have to do is despawn the vehicle. So go on up. As you can see, we have 4,928 liters in there presently. If I go ahead to the workbench and despawn it, you'll notice now that we have 5,490 liters. So it takes all the fuel back out of the vehicle. Now, you often will lose the fuel that's in the pipes. So you have to make the decision yourself. It's usually not that much unless it's an enormous boat and it has a ton of piping. You're not losing that much, but it's up to you. If you want every last drop, you should pump it out. But as you can see, now we have more fuel in there. We're down to, I think, like 4,800. And now we have 5,400 liters of fuel. So this is how you're going to be able to maintain the fuel that's in your base, is you need to go out there and get it from the world. So I hope you guys found that helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.